Good evening, friends. This is Father Tim. We began reading a new book tonight. We just recently finished Romans. And so, in that place, we now will be picking up the book of Esther. And we continue at the same time in First Kings and in Ecclesiasticus. Good evening, Don and Linda. Esther's a relatively short little book, 10 chapters. It's a complex book as far as scriptures because there are two versions of it. There's the version that is common in Protestant Bibles, which is the text that is found in the Hebrew Bible. And then there is the text as it is found in the apocryphal deuterocanonical books, which are from the Septuagint, the Greek version of the Hebrew scriptures, which is a little bit longer than the Hebrew version and is what is the official text of Esther in Roman Catholic Bibles and Orthodox Christian Bibles. For us as Anglicans, you'll see if you pick up a good scholarly Bible, you'll find both of them. The Hebrew version of Esther in the Old Testament, and then in between, a section called the Apocryphal Deuterocanonical Books, and the longer section of Esther will be in there. We're going to well, in essence, we're going to read both. We'll read the Hebrew text from the complete Jewish Bible, and we will take moments where there's the additions that pop in to read from the Common English Bible. And I'll show you what those look like when we get there into the text. But for now tonight, we're just going to take a brief overview look at this book of Esther, looking at the big picture, the poster board, or in this case, the poster boards. And you'll see one is fully contained in the other. There's one that's a little longer, the one that's about the Greek version, because the Greek version is longer. Good evening, Mom. Good evening, Anthony. So, friends, enough of talking about this. Let's look at this and see what it looks like. So, this is the Hebrew version. And when I say let's put that, all of what you see will be seen in the next poster board that I'm going to pull up, which is the Greek version. So all of this you're about to see again, but you'll see where the Greek editions plug in here. There's the Greek version. Before we jump into chapter 1, there's this prologue. Mordecai's dream. Mordecai is a chief figure in this story. Mordecai is a relative of Esther's who has continued the task of raising Esther and caring for her because her parents have both died. Now, what exactly that relationship is depends on what version of this story you go with. There's doesn't quite fully agree, but it does agree that there's a relation there, a family relation. And forewarning, by the way, um, this makes me think of my dad, who always said, "Everything comes full circle." The flow of this chart is in a circle. We start up here, prologue, Mordecai's dream. That's a part that's only in the Greek. We'll end over here in the interpretation of the dream in an epilogue. Again, that's also only in the Greek. Going full circle from starting point to ending point. Here's where we go. The first two chapters are showing the greatness of the king of Persia. This grand empire, vast, massive empire. We'll talk about that in a moment after we look at this. And it's in the midst of this showing forth of the greatness of the king of Persia that we meet Esther. The queen of Persia becomes disgraced and is dismissed from her position as king. Yeah, basically, the king divorces his wife and looks for another wife, a new queen. And that will be Esther. Chapter 3, there is this character that we're introduced to by the name of Haman, who is the villain in this story. He is a chief officer to the king. He is elevated, he is highly praised. He doesn't like the fact that Mordecai doesn't make a big deal about him. He's angry at not being properly recognized for his greatness by Mordecai the Jew. And so he shifts all of his anger from this one man, Mordecai, uh, to the whole people of Mordecai and becomes enraged against the Jews. So much so that he uses his high status authority, having been elevated to be able to speak and act on behalf of the king with the king's authority, to decree that all the Jews should be killed. Now, Esther is queen by this point, but Esther has kept her Jewish identity hidden at the command of Mordecai. So Haman doesn't realize what he's doing and the implications that are going to come of this moment. And at some point, Mordecai, for the sake of their people, directs Esther to reveal her identity to the king and plead for her people. She fasts and prays and prepares for this. All of the Jews of Susa, the capital city of the Persian Empire, join her in doing so. She comes to the king uninvited. As we'll see, that's a big deal. But the king shows mercy to her and asks what is her wish, what is her request. And chapter 5, we come across this great banquet that the queen puts on for the king her husband, and for Haman. A great banquet for three people: the king, the queen, and Haman. And at that meal, the king will again ask, "What is your request?" A second banquet is proposed. That comes in chapter 7, the second banquet. In between chapter 6, the story pivots because you see there was this moment where a couple of servants, eunuchs to the king, had attempted a coup, had attempted to kill the king. And Mordecai had revealed this. And one night, the night between these two banquets, the king has a sleepless night, and he asks that the records, the stories of the empire be read to him, and he's reminded of what Mordecai has done and asks what has been done to honor Mordecai. And the answer is nothing. Nothing has been done. And so the king asks Haman what should be done for the man whom the king wishes to honor and recognize. And Haman thinks it must be him that the king wants to honor. And so Haman puts on this grand proposal of how the king should honor the man he wishes to honor, and then is humiliated when he realizes that the one whom the king wishes to honor is his enemy, the one whom he despises, Mordecai. Mordecai, the very one, by the way, for whom he has already at this point set and constructed a gallows, because he has it in his mind to hang Mordecai now. Well, that is until all of a sudden he has to honor him at the king's command, and then that falls apart. The second banquet happens in chapter 7. Again, the king asks what the queen's request is, and she reveals it. She pleads for her people. She pleads for deliverance from the wicked foe who plans to kill all of her people. And the king asks who would do this, and she points to Haman. The king is angry and he leaves for a moment. When he comes back in, he discovers Haman physically laying hands on the queen, pleading, begging for mercy because he realizes he's in trouble. And that makes the king even more furious. And then magically, mysteriously, there are servants nearby who make the king aware of the fact that Haman has a gallows set at his home to hang Mordecai. And what does the king do? He orders that Haman be hung himself on the very gallows that he built with the intent of hanging Mordecai. And then Mordecai is elevated into the vacated position that was held by Haman, with all the rights, privileges that Haman had in his elevation. Mordecai becomes a great man. In chapter 8, Esther and Mordecai plan to reverse the decree to annihilate the Jews. The decree saves the Jews. Mordecai is publicly elevated. And then chapters 9 and 10 are the record of Mordecai's greatness and the deliverance of Mordecai and Esther's people. It's a quick run through. There are some Greek additions, like basically there are letters initially from Haman to the provinces of the empire, from Mordecai and Esther undoing the letters. These things are only referenced to in the Hebrew text. The Greek text actually includes the letters, which is how it's longer in the Greek text. All of this happens in the Persian Empire. Now, specifically in the capital city of Susa, the great capital city of the Persian Empire. Now, you may have figured out by now, somewhat, where is this happening? Where is this taking place? Persia, the heart of the Persian Empire, is the nation that we now know as Iran. See all of Iran over here. Here's the Persian Gulf. You're right up through here is the line between Iran and Iraq. Up here's Mosul. Mosul, by the way, that's ancient Nineveh. Ancient Babylon is somewhere through here. I forget exactly where, between Mosul and Baghdad, I believe. But yeah, the city of Susa is now the Iranian city of Shush. Right where this red pin is, that's where that is. Giving an idea of where we're looking at. And this vast empire went all the way into India and all the way into northern Africa. And it included Palestine, a vast empire, massive and extremely powerful. And it, like so many others, rose and then fell. Empires do that. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're in for with this book of Esther. And we won't do anything more than that now, but next time we will start to read. When next we pick up the book of Esther. In a few moments, friends, we'll be live again. Excuse me. We'll be live again in a few moments. And when we're live again, we'll pray evening prayers. Good evening, Francis. It's a great little book. I hope you enjoy it. It's one of my favorites.